Faith will have a poetic reading and something like a sermon for us. Not a sermon if that feels too weighty. But, we're in the first Sunday of May, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So Faith will be sharing with us out of her own family experience, but we're all living in a bit of a mental health nightmare these days. So I think she's got a word for all of us. And I thought I would just share a brief scripture, which felt to me like the words of someone who has been acquainted with mental health crises. This is the beginning verses of Psalm 40. And God stooped down to me and heard my cry. God drew me up out of the desolate pit where I was mired down and set my feet upon a rock and made my steps secure. God put a new song in my mouth, a song of praise to God. Many will see and be in awe and put their trust in God. Blessed is the one who makes God the source of their trust and does not turn to the arrogant, those who go astray after falling. Deeds and your thoughts toward us. No one can compare with you. If I were to proclaim and tell all of those things, there would be more than can be numbered. Someone living in desolation who found
It's very unusual to be up here, but it's nice to see all of you. This is a poem by our former National Poet Laureate, Joy Harjo, who's a Muskogee Creek Native American. It's called For Calling the Spirit Back from Wandering the Earth in Its Human Feet. Put down that bag of potato chips, that white bread, that bottle of pop. Turn off that cell phone, computer, and remote control. Open the door, then close it behind you. Take a breath offered by friendly winds. They travel the earth, gathering essences of plants to clean. Give back with gratitude. If you sing, it will give your spirit lift to fly to the stars' ears and back. Acknowledge this earth who has cared for you since you were a dream planting itself precisely within your parents' desire. Let your moccasin feet take you to the encampment of the guardians who have known you before time, who will be there after time. They sit before the fire that has been there without time. Let the earth stabilize your post-colonial insecure jitters. Be respectful of the small insects, birds, and animal people who accompany you. Ask their forgiveness for the harm we humans have brought down upon them. Don't worry. The heart knows the way, though there may be high-rises, interstates, checkpoints, armed soldiers, massacres, wars, and those who will despise you because they despise themselves. The journey might take you a few hours, a day, a year, a few years, 100, 1,000, or even more. Watch your mind. Without training, it might run away and leave your heart for the immense human feast set by the thieves of time. Do not hold regrets. When you find your way to the circle, to the fire kept burning by the keepers of your soul, you will be welcomed. You must clean yourself with cedar, sage, or other healing plants. Cut the ties you have to failure and shame. Let go the pain you are holding in your mind, in your shoulders, your heart, all the way down to your feet. Let go of the pain of your ancestors to make way for those who are heading in our direction. Ask for forgiveness. Call upon the help of those who love you. Those helpers may take many forms: animal, element, bird. angel, saint, stone, or ancestor. Call yourself back. You will find yourself caught in corners and creases of shame, judgment, and human abuse. You must call in a way that your spirit will want to return. Speak to it as you would a beloved child. Welcome your spirit back from its wandering. It will return in pieces, in tatters. Gather them together. They will be happy to be found after being lost for so long. Your spirit will need to sleep a while after it is bathed and given clean clothes. Now you can have a party. Invite everyone you know who loves and supports you. Keep room for those who have no place else to go. Make a giveaway, and remember, keep the speeches short. Then you must do this: help the next person find their way through the dark. Good morning, friends. Many of you may not be aware that it's International Mental Health Month. That's not surprising. Mental health has long been treated as the forgotten stepchild of physical health, easier to ignore, harder to talk about, and even more difficult to treat. But that silence allows suffering to fester, and today I'm going to break that silence. My family's story with mental illness spans centuries and continents, beginning with the persecution of Huguenots in the 18th century France. My great-great-grandfather, Laurier Genet, volatile, angry, and unmarriageable, fled to Canada to go to a royal land grant that was in the family after his grandfather had tried to buy safety from King Louis XIV with a loan that the Mad King repaid with worthless land in the frontier wilderness of New Brunswick. After the land sat unused for a century, Laurier decided to seek his fortune there. He married a Micmac woman whose name, like so many indigenous women, is lost to history. He then replicated cycles of dominance and violence, abusing her with impunity. That legacy of trauma passed down through generations. In the so-called golden age of the 1950s, my grandfather Edward was jobless, volatile, and abusive. My brilliant mother Arlene survived a childhood of daily beatings by escaping into books and the local library. Without protections for abused children except for her beloved books, my mother's trauma calcified into mental illness, borderline personality disorder mixed with features of narcissistic personality disorder. First described by Adolf Stern in 1938, borderline personality disorder, or BPD, was seen as on the border between neurosis and psychosis. It's relatively rare, affecting 2 to 4% of women in the US and a negligible number of men, though that may be due to misdiagnosis of men. Otto Kernberg later defined BPD in the 1970s by traits like frantic efforts to avoid abandonment, unstable relationships, emotional volatility, black and white thinking, outbursts of rage often triggered by perceived rejection, and temporary psychosis if the stress of abandonment was great enough. You may be more familiar with narcissistic personality disorder since it's much more prevalent. 7% of all men in the US and 4% of all women, for a total of 18 million adults, suffer from this disorder. It's characterized by grandiosity, entitlement, fragile self-esteem, a need for admiration, envy, exploitative behavior, a constant feeling of victimhood, and a profound lack of empathy. Yet despite everyone knowing at least one person who would qualify for clinically diagnosable levels of this disorder, and our current president being probably the most well-known sufferer, there's still a reticence to speak about this disorder and mental health more broadly that seems misplaced given the urgency of the moral, emotional, and political crises we find ourselves in. At my home growing up, my emotionally absent engineer father would work in foreign countries for months at a time, building the first international satellite systems and frequenting brothels overseas. My father was relieved to be gone for such long stretches, allowing me to be a shock absorber for my mother's mental illness and alcoholism. As the oldest child, I became my mother's emotional ballast and the co-parent to my siblings. I was groomed to have no needs, ridiculed for having emotions, not allowed the after-school activities or enriching experience of other kids because that threatened my mother's sense of abandonment. I was expected to rescue my emotionally drowning mother. In my recurring nightmares, I literally rescued her in a body of water while being pulled under myself. Yet even amidst the chaos, there were two refuges, school and church. I looked up to my teachers, studied hard, and got mostly straight A's. This served as a point of pride for me, but also helped mask the emotional abuse I was suffering, keeping it hidden from other adults in my life. The church we attended regularly was a 1960s UCC experiment in joining with Methodist and Presbyterian denominations, an experiment that never extended beyond Reston, Virginia, and another location in Hawaii. The United Christian Church of Reston, which still exists, is a church very much like this one. In the stillness of services, I found peace, and in the adults I met there, I found role models of maturity. I believe this saved me from greater psychological harm. My mother, complex as she was, worked courageously for school desegregation in the 1960s of Virginia, and so courageously, in fact, that a Klan member threatened our family. My mother refused to be intimidated, and I've never forgotten her bravery. That same resilience led me, as a young woman living in Philadelphia, to begin therapy at age 28. Taking that first leap of faith to commit to therapy felt like jumping into a bottomless pit. But through a series of deep self-reflections, my therapist and I reclaimed the me I was meant to be. The process was slow and took over 2 decades. I gave up career ambition, enduring underemployment, and not even considering dating, while devoting myself entirely to healing. My greatest life achievement isn't on a resume. It's breaking the cycle of abuse and not passing it down to the next generation. Because of that work, my life milestones happened late. At 38, I began a successful career as a wedding photographer. After a string of toxic relationships, I met my grounded, loving husband, Ken, at age 49. We married 2 years later. I helped raise his wonderful daughters, Grace and Katie. Grace is online today, who had lost their mother. For the first time, I was able to give healthy love to children, drawn from the well of my own hard-won wholeness. But the legacy of trauma never fully leaves. My mother, unfortunately, never sought therapy. Though she overcame alcoholism through AA, my mother's untreated personality disorders and the emotional volatility that entails led her into the arms of right-wing populist politics after my father's death. She's now deeply immersed in conspiracy theories, having abandoned the civil rights ideals of her youth. My sister, who suffers from similar disorders, was outside the Capitol on January 6th. My nephew also struggles with addiction and psychosis. And this isn't just my family's story, it's a reflection of a deeper national sickness. In my time as a wedding photographer, I saw something shift after the combination of Instagram and the smartphone became popular in 2013. My youthful wedding clients became more emotionally brittle and more anxious. After that year, their mental health fell off an emotional cliff. I often felt I was photographing not love, but performance. Aesthetic intimacy masking emotional chaos. Despite these radical changes for the worse in our society's mental health, we've been slow to recognize this revolutionary change because of the silence that accompanies mental health issues. Our society, as mediated through algorithms, has become an emotionally abusive parent. It gaslights us, telling us we are responsible for the poor mental health that results from its systems that are rigged against us. It isolates us through digital, quote, connection that can't replicate embodied trust. It rewards us randomly, like tech-designed slot machines, addicting us while pretending to serve us. As media theorist Douglas Rushkoff says, digital culture seeks to colonize human life. When we engage with screens more than with each other, we enter a dishonest relationship with our world, one where empathy, awe, and presence are replaced with data and manipulation. By entering these digital spaces, we lay ourselves out for the feast of the human heart by the jackals that the poet Joy Harjo describes. These systems are not the neutral bulletin boards that the social media companies claim. They use the same tactics as emotionally abusive parents: constant criticism through curated perfection, gaslighting by warping our sense of reality, control through algorithms and surveillance, emotional neglect by ignoring human needs for connection and dignity, and isolation pushing us into curated echo chambers that promise connection but never really deliver. This all burdens us with the sense that we must fix the resulting problems alone. This manipulation is not just personal, it's also political. The softening of the ground from social media paved the way for an authoritarian leader. When I was young, I vividly remember a quote from an anonymous Russian woman who said, "Americans are the butterflies of the world." In the last few weeks, following the bulldozer that is social media since 2013, a malevolent gardener has entered the country for the second time, this time clipping the butterfly's wings. There's a sense that in the new America, only 100 days old now, that we're required to live inside the id of one man, trying to figure out what he might do next just to protect the safety of ourselves and our families, let alone the safety and dignity of our friends, neighbors, students, colleagues, and acquaintances. There's an interruption to the daily happy rhythm of life, a dark awareness that the barista you greet in the morning or the pleasant guy who tends to the local park might be dehumanized in an instant, made a target at any moment. If you're white, there's an awkward self-awareness of white privilege more amplified than it's been before. And in America, that's saying something. That sense many of us now feel, the need to remain vigilant, stay small, avoid triggering someone powerful and dangerous, is painfully familiar to me. We're all living in the dark, cramped world of my childhood, hypervigilant and frightened. And this brings me back to generational trauma. I worry that the unresolved trauma of one man is now becoming the trauma of millions, and that this may carry forward as long as our digital enslavers are endemic to modern life. But we are the inheritors of human dignity, not algorithmic optimization. What can be done? Just by the simple act of you showing up here today in church, just as I found healing from abusive parents in church decades ago, by interacting, by granting us the gift of your presence, you are contributing to the healing of the world. And people on Zoom, I'm not referring to you. I'm not dissing you. You're an interactive part of our church, just not, you're not emotionally manipulative text or images on a screen burped up by a cruel, indifferent algorithm. But I worry that the darkness in which the topic of mental health lives has made it all too easy for the abuse of the digital overlords and authoritarian leader to, as Rushkoff says, colonize our souls. As social media provides for the fracking of the human mind, sucking out its attention and leaving behind a hollow soul, mental health as a topic must be front and center as the most important topic of our digital age. Let us honor Mental Health Awareness Month not with slogans, but with our radical presence. Let us be the generation that ends this silence. Thank you very much.